As always, we want to say thanks to making zsportslounge.com your choice, the host of affiliates that resend this channel out, and obviously the military bases all over this land and stationed Afghanistan. Our thoughts and prayers always go out to you. We have the opportunity to go out to Davidson College, talk little wrestling with Coach Bob Patnesky. Sir, how you doing?
I'm doing great this morning, Bo.
Coach, I want to say thank you so much for showing up. We understand it's been a big recruitment year for you. There's a lot going on in the wrestling community, and we're going to catch up with you and see what's going on over there at Davidson.
Excellent. Sounds good.
Coach, right now we've heard stories of Slippery Rock. We know the great Don Aaliyah had lost his program over at Carson Newman. There's been a lot of downsizings in wrestling over the last 20 years at least. But I think some of the golden spots are the U.S. wrestling team, the D2s, and obviously now the MMA, and with the UFC's explosion of wrestling athletes into their lineup. And I don't think there's any other wrestling league that has the UFC stamp of approval on it. It's got to be good to see all the hard work you put into educating these guys, and they actually have the opportunity to use their training in a professional arena outside of the WWE.
Yeah, it's definitely the UFC is a great organization that came about, especially for wrestlers, because it does give them the opportunity to provide a living once they're done competing collegiately, because there really is nothing else. Now, USA Wrestling's doing a great job with developing the Living the Dream Fund to where athletes now that are going to train for the Olympics, if you win a gold, silver, or bronze medal in the World Championships or the Olympics, you get a pretty nice stipend for that. So it's definitely... we're definitely in a period where change is happening, and it's good.
Yeah, and I like the fact that there's so much visibility in the community now. I know that the Fort Lauderdale meeting, which was, thank God it was nice weather, no hurricanes, took out all the best coaches in the country. But to back up a little bit, they're talking about making the movement from the NCAA to a non-competing for basketball. I originally was in support of the move because of the TV rights. There'll be a little more eyes on it. But then Martin Florani over at Flow Wrestling brought up a point: is that if the NCAA isn't supporting it now and it's successful, going against basketball, how is it going to improve the visibility if there's still no support, especially if the D3s and the NIAs aren't able to have their wrestlers compete against the best?
Right. I mean, the change of seasons has been something that's been talked about for quite a few years now. As far as I view it, I like the way it is right now. But I wouldn't be opposed to move. And a couple of my concerns would be, when would the championships fall, the NCAA championships fall within the calendar year? Just because you wouldn't want it running into finals and things like that. In wrestling, the championships at this present moment, it sells out every year, so the support's there. As far as the change in season, I'd have to look into it a little bit more to give a strong opinion on it. But I could see it benefit in both ways.
Yeah, I would like to see it, long as uniformity. Wrestling's one of the very few programs that have the NIA top athletes, and there's some very good guys in the D3s and NIAs that were state champions, and they actually give you guys a run for your money at times. But that's the beautiful thing of wrestling, is you do have the Hoosier, you do have the underdog upset. A lot of guys, I know when they show up for the big tournament, the NCAA, they are looking for the Cinderella story, just like they do in basketball. I cannot see the casual basketball fan watching wrestling unless they have a student themselves or they've been brought up in that mindset to follow it. I think to help bring more viewers in, the NCAA needs to put a little more money into a very profitable sport for the NCAA. From all recognition, the wrestling tournament does bring a pretty penny to the NCAA.
Yeah, it's definitely sold out every year. Whatever the venue holds, 17,000, 18,000. As far as your comment on the basketball viewers, wrestling's a type of sport that either you love it or you hate it. It's not one of them ones, well, I'm going to go home and watch a wrestling match today.
Yeah.
Because you want to. So, on that point, It could be the only thing that I think could help by moving the season is we might be able to get a little more national exposure on prime time, which could make it nice. But where we're at right now, we're still getting we're on ESPNU, the quarterfinals, semifinals. The finals are live now, and they try and put them on ESPN2. So, I mean, we've definitely come a long way from where we were, say, 8 years ago.
Absolutely. And the nice thing that is seen across the board is the professionalism of the athletes come forward. I know in Fort Lauderdale they were talking about the MMA still considered a blood sport. I think the administration people and I think the presidents really need to educate themselves more in realizing that in football you have far more serious and what's it called? Far more permanent injury done on a human body than in wrestling or even in MMA. Unfortunately, most presidents aren't familiar with it. They don't care as long as they follow the NCAA. They get the visibility factor, and I think it's a real travesty because they considering it a blood sport when in reality the football is truly the blood sport. I love football, but you can see more permanent injury on a much larger scale, and they never talk about it. And I think it goes against wrestling.
Well, the thing about wrestling is it's a one-on-one combat sport. I mean, and when you got mano a mano, the mind, or you tend to think that, okay, it's just totally physical, which it is, and bad things can always happen. But you're definitely correct on your view on football, to where you see guys going down all the time. As far as in wrestling, yeah, you get the knee injuries, you get the cuts, the bruises, but the really, really severe injuries, I think, are limited across the board.
Absolutely. And the other element that wrestling offers, I believe there is a stat out there, and I'm not going to quote the reference until I actually get confirmation from my intern who brought it up. Wrestling has a higher percentage in their ranks of professionals outside of sports that accomplish more, such as doctors, lawyers, and engineers, than any other sport out there at a college campus. And I think that's true from the parents that I run into at my high school events, where they wrestled a little bit in college, but went on to become doctors, lawyers, and engineers and architects.
Right.
I think the drive to be successful carries forward in the professional life once you're a wrestler.
Well, that's the thing about wrestling, and that's what we try to preach here at Davidson, or staff, is there's nothing that you can do that's going to set you up for what's going to come in later down the road in life, like wrestling. Obviously, we want kids that want to win conference champions, go to the NCAAs, be All-Americans, but our number one goal is to make sure they're prepared for the real world when they leave Davidson. And what I mean by that is socially, to understand what can happen in the workplace, a lot of different things. And to go back on your point about doctors, lawyers, engineers, I know by coaching here at Davidson, a lot of our guys are pre-med. They are pre-law. So that point, you could definitely be very, very valid in the fact that right now we have guys studying that, and it goes down to the work ethic. Everything that you do in this sport prepares you for the next step that you're going to take. The hard work, the discipline, if you want to say you're out there by yourself. I mean, you can't tag somebody. This isn't the WWE.
That's right.
When things get rough, or you're in that adverse moment and things just aren't going right, you can't just quit. You got to keep plugging through that moment, win or lose, and then you come off, you evaluate what happened, and you get better from it.
Yeah, and I think the popularity of the sport is that Hollywood or Walt Disney, it seems like they're the only ones that do reality shows and put a little motion behind it. We've seen in several basketball movies by Walt Disney and several baseball, such as The Rookie. There needs to be a better movie than Vision Quest. Even though Vision Quest, I think every single wrestler has seen 1,000 times, it's the only movie out there.
Hey, Vision Quest is a great movie.
It is, but you know, it was